Good evening, dear listener. As the night settles in, take a deep breath and let the calmness wash over you. Picture yourself in a quiet kingdom where a prince named Caelan is about to begin a journey that will change him forever. Let the peaceful rhythm of the story guide you to a restful sleep. Close your eyes, relax, and drift into your dreams. In a kingdom veiled in rolling hills and thick woods, where towers cast their silent watch over the land, there lived a prince named Caelan. He was loved, respected, and praised for his wisdom, but he was not yet wise. To his people, he was a golden figure, a promise of hope and strength, a prince with a future as bright as the morning sun. Yet within his heart, a strange emptiness grew, an aching he could not name. One moonlit night, as silver light bathed the castle walls, he walked alone in the courtyard, listening to the whispering wind and gazing at the stars above, which sparkled like distant memories just out of reach. Shadows stretched across the ground like secrets, and the cool air seemed thick with anticipation, almost as if the night itself waited for him to speak. Then, as if in answer to his unspoken question, a faint melody reached his ears, so delicate he nearly thought he imagined it. It seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere. Its sound like water moving over stones, blending with the rustling leaves. There were no words, but he felt something ancient and knowing within its notes, like the remnants of an old lullaby. For years, he had heard tales of hidden waterfalls, mysterious places tucked deep in the Mistwood, guarded by no one yet unreachable by all. These waterfalls, they said, could reveal truth so profound they could turn the humblest villager into a sage, or the mightiest king into a penitent. It was said that each waterfall had its own spirit and its own question, and only the brave or the foolish dared to seek them. He had always dismissed these stories as the fancy of old lore, something sung around fires to spark wonder or tame children's fears. But tonight, under the haunting light of the moon, they felt like more than legends. They felt like an invitation. Driven by an urgency he could not explain, he strode to his chambers, donned a cloak, and left the castle as quietly as shadows slipping under doors. He took no torch, no provisions. The misted forest awaited, calling to him with its strange and silent allure. He mounted his steed, a dark horse with a coat as black as the midnight sea, and rode into the night. As he approached the edge of the forest, the world seemed to change. The air grew heavier, thick with the scent of pine and earth, as though he were passing into another realm entirely. The leaves overhead formed a canopy so dense that even the moon's light dimmed, leaving him guided only by the faint glimmers that escaped through gaps in the foliage. Yet the forest itself seemed alive with an eerie awareness, watching him from behind every tree and stone. Mist gathered around his horse's hooves as he ventured deeper, curling in tendrils, rising as if to meet him, to greet him. He rode for what felt like hours through twisting paths and gnarled roots, through stretches of silence so complete he could hear his own heart beating. All around him, shadows shifted, and from the depths of the trees came soft, almost inaudible whispers, like voices just beyond understanding. But the prince's heart, once so steady, now beat with a thrill he could not deny. Just as he began to wonder if he would be lost forever in the heart of the Mistwood, he saw a glow ahead. It was faint, like the glimmer of a faraway star, yet it held a strange warmth that beckoned him closer. He dismounted and stepped forward on foot, parting the low-hanging branches to reveal a hidden glade bathed in soft, shimmering light. Before him, partially concealed by a veil of thick vines and ivy, was the first of the fabled waterfalls. Its water was silver in the moonlight, falling in a steady musical stream that sparkled as if dusted with stardust. He felt the weight of its presence, a gravity that held him still, unable to look away. Then, as he approached, a voice seemed to rise from within the waterfall, as soft as silk, yet resonant as thunder, filling the glade with a question that chilled and thrilled him to his very bones. "What do you seek, Prince of the waking world?" The words echoed through him, gentle yet unyielding, demanding the truth from the depths of his soul. His mouth felt dry as he tried to find the words, but he spoke as if the answer had been waiting in his heart all along. "I seek wisdom," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "to understand my purpose and my people's needs." At this, the water shimmered and surged, as though it sensed the sincerity of his plea, and the silver mist that surrounded the falls thickened. His journey had begun, yet already he could feel the weight of its promise pressing upon him. He did not know what he would find, but he felt a certainty that he would never be the same. And in that hidden glade, under the silent witness of the stars, Prince Caelan prepared to face the questions that awaited him. Prince Caelan left the glade as dawn crept over the horizon, the first light breaking through the forest in soft, amber shards. His mind felt as if it had been stirred from a deep, strange dream, yet his heart beat with a clarity he had never known. The silver waterfall's question echoed within him, as if the forest itself had become an extension of its voice, urging him forward. The path before him was uncertain, winding deeper into the mistwood, where sunlight struggled to penetrate the thick canopy. The air grew damp and cool, and the mist rose like a living veil, curling around trees and shifting with every step he took. Here, the world was silent but not empty, filled with a presence that seemed to stretch beyond sight, as though the woods themselves were watching, waiting. Hours turned to days as Prince Caelan wandered through the dense labyrinth, his sense of time slipping away. The trees were ancient, gnarled things that reached out with twisted branches, and their roots knotted over the path, creating obstacles that seemed almost deliberate. At times, he could swear he saw shadows flitting just beyond his vision, figures that melted into mist before he could catch a full glimpse. Yet each time he paused to listen, there was only silence, thick and unbroken. One night, as he rested beside a fallen log, he heard a rustling in the underbrush. He looked up, his eyes straining against the darkness, and saw a faint light, a ghostly glow moving through the trees. Entranced, he followed it, winding his way through the undergrowth, stepping carefully so as not to make a sound. The glow grew brighter, drawing him on, and the forest seemed to part before him, creating a narrow path that did not feel like it had existed moments before. The light led him to a hidden hollow, shrouded in mist so dense it seemed to swirl with life. And there, at the center of the hollow, was the second waterfall. Unlike the first, this one did not fall in a silvery rush. Instead, it flowed in a slow, steady cascade, its water as clear as glass, reflecting the trees and sky like a perfect mirror. The mist around him thickened, forming shapes that shifted and danced at the edges of his vision. As he stepped closer, he saw that the waterfall held not his own reflection but images. Faces he knew, people he recognized. It was as if the water had become a window into the souls of his kingdom, capturing their expressions in perfect detail. A voice, softer than the first but piercing as a dagger, emerged from the mist. "What lies hidden in your heart, Prince Caelan? What do you seek to know?" The question hung in the air, echoing like a distant chime. Caelan's gaze drifted back to the water, where he saw the faces of those he had passed by, people he had once considered mere parts of his world. He saw the cobbler who toiled day and night, the woman who gathered herbs in the forest, the children who played in the castle gardens. Their expressions, hopeful, weary, joyous, sorrowful, all wove together, forming a tapestry of life that filled him with a strange ache. Without thinking, he knelt by the water's edge, his reflection mingling with theirs. I seek to understand," he murmured, his voice trembling. "I want to see as they see, to feel as they feel." The water rippled, and one by one, the faces began to shift, revealing scenes he had overlooked in his life. He saw the cobbler's hands, calloused and worn, stitching shoes late into the night for children who could not afford to pay. He saw the woman in the forest, gathering plants with gentle fingers, offering herbs to the poor, giving from her own meager stock to those who had nothing. He saw the children laughing with boundless joy, despite the thinness of their clothes and the empty pangs in their bellies. His heart clenched as the images played before him, each one a reminder of lives he had barely noticed, struggles he had never thought to ease. The waterfall whispered, "True wisdom, Prince, lies not in knowing the ways of kings and rulers, but in understanding the hearts of those who walk unseen. Caelan's throat tightened, and he felt tears prick at his eyes. He had lived his life surrounded by luxury and praise. But now, gazing into the mirror of compassion, he realized how blind he had been. For all his fine words and noble deeds, he had not truly known his people. He had seen only what was visible, never the depths that lay beneath. As the images faded, the water stilled, returning to its clear, silent reflection. Caelan stood, feeling the weight of his own compassion settle within him, heavier than any crown. He knew now that his heart would never rest until he carried the burdens he had seen, until he found a way to lessen them. With a final glance at the waterfall, he whispered his gratitude and turned back to the forest path, carrying with him the faces and lives that had woven themselves into his soul. In the stillness of dawn, Prince Caelan continued his journey, his heart now a strange mix of weight and lightness. The Mistwood no longer seemed like a shadowed maze, but a world of secrets slowly revealing itself. Yet with each step, he felt the quiet of the forest grow deeper, as if urging him towards something hidden in its depths. As he walked, the trees began to thin, giving way to a rocky path that wound its way up a small hill, shrouded in fog. At the top, he found the first of the fabled waterfalls, its presence both beautiful and ominous. Here, water cascaded in a powerful torrent, shimmering with an otherworldly silver as it rushed over dark stones. It was a waterfall unlike any he had ever seen. The air around it pulsed with a weight he could feel in his very bones. The sound of the waterfall was a roar and a whisper, echoing through him as if it held ancient secrets. And then, just as before, a voice emerged from the depths of the mist, low and steady, weaving itself into the rhythm of the falling water. "Prince of the waking world," the voice intoned, both tender and fierce. "Do you have the courage to see the truth that lies before you?" A shiver ran down his spine as he stood before the waterfall, his reflection distorted in the shifting water. He had spoken of seeking wisdom, of understanding his people, but he felt a tremor of doubt. What truth did this waterfall wish to reveal? And would he be able to bear it? With a steadying breath, he nodded. "I am ready," he said, though his heart thudded with both fear and anticipation. At his words, the water began to churn, its surface shimmering until it became as clear as glass. Within its depths, he saw a vision form, a vision of his kingdom. He recognized the golden spires of his castle, the bustling market square, the grand halls he had walked through countless times. But the scene did not stay beautiful for long. The image shifted, and he began to see cracks in the kingdom's foundation, small at first, nearly invisible, but growing with each moment. Streets lined with beggars, the hands outstretched. Merchants with worry etched into their faces as they counted their meager coins. Soldiers with tired, haunted eyes, standing guard for people who barely acknowledged them. Shadows of suffering lay upon every face, and the pride he had always felt in his kingdom wavered. But the vision did not stop there. It delved deeper, showing him his own role in these hidden pains. He saw himself at grand feasts, seated at tables laden with food, while beyond the castle walls, families went to bed hungry. He saw himself issuing commands from his throne, his words aimed at prosperity, yet failing to touch those most in need. Each image burned into his heart, forcing him to confront the invisible chains he had unwittingly forged around his people. His breath caught, and he felt his hands tremble. "Is this my doing?" he whispered, scarcely able to believe the weight of what he saw. He had thought himself a good ruler, a caring prince. But now he saw that goodness alone was not enough. He had been blind, wrapped in the comfort of his own perspective, unaware of the silent struggles around him. The voice of the waterfall echoed softly. "To be a ruler is to hold the lives of many in your hands, yet not all lives can be held with ease. It is only by facing the truth that you may guide them toward peace." Caelan felt a deep, aching sadness rise within him. The truth was harsh, stripping away his illusions and leaving him raw, exposed. He had not been the ruler he imagined, and the burdens of his people lay heavier on his shoulders than he had ever allowed himself to feel. But with this sadness came something else, a fierce resolve. The knowledge burned within him, a flame that both pained and strengthened him. The truth had wounded him, yes, but in its wound lay a purpose he had never known. His heart filled with a new, iron-willed determination. No longer would he turn a blind eye to the struggles he now saw so clearly. He would be their strength, their shield, the balm to soothe their wounds. The waterfall stilled, its surface returning to the gentle rush of water over stones, and the voice faded, leaving him alone once more. Caelan felt the weight of the vision settle into him, a part of him as much as his own blood and bones. He had seen his kingdom's hidden wounds, and he now carried them as his own. With a final bow to the waterfall, he turned back to the forest path, his heart heavier, but his spirit stronger. He knew his journey was far from over, and as he walked, he held fast to the courage of truth, a light to guide him through the shadows that awaited. The journey from the first waterfall left Prince Caelan with a heart more burdened yet strangely uplifted. The truth he had seen had struck him like a blade, yet from the wound grew a new resolve. He pressed forward, deeper into the mistwood, guided by a light that now glowed within him, steady and unyielding. The air felt denser as he walked, heavy with the scent of moss and the silent weight of ancient trees that watched him with quiet understanding. The forest path grew narrower, its edges blurred with thick, swirling mist that seemed to draw him closer, cocooning him in its embrace. At times, he felt as if he were walking through a dreamscape, where time and memory folded together, each step blending past and present, carrying him to realms both familiar and strange. And then, after what felt like hours, or perhaps only moments, he saw it, a soft, ethereal glow, hidden within a grove of white-barked trees. At the center of this grove lay the second waterfall, though it hardly resembled the first. This one was still, its waters falling in a slow, gentle cascade, as if time itself had softened its flow. It was not silver, but clear, so clear that it reflected everything before it with a strange, quiet accuracy, as though it were a mirror crafted by nature's hand. The mist hung around it like a veil, giving the waterfall a tranquil, almost sacred air. Prince Caelan approached, his reflection coming into focus upon the water's glassy surface. But as he drew near, he noticed something strange. His reflection was not alone. Figures began to appear beside him in the water, shadowy at first but growing clearer with each breath. They were faces he recognized. His family, his friends, his people. The cobbler's worn features, the herbalist's tired gaze, the children's hopeful smiles. All of them stood beside him in the reflection, their eyes fixed on him with expressions that stirred his heart. Then, just as before, the voice of the waterfall arose, this time softer, like the quiet rustle of leaves in a breeze. "Prince Caelan, do you wish to see yourself as they see you?" The question hung in the air, weaving through him with both gentleness and gravity. To look into the hearts of others was one thing. To see himself through their eyes felt far more daunting. But he could feel the truth lingering just beyond the surface, waiting to be revealed, and he knew he could not turn back. "Yes," he murmured, his voice barely a whisper. "I wish to see." At once, the reflections in the water shifted, the faces becoming clearer, more vivid. He watched as his own image blurred, merging with the faces of his people. Through their eyes, he saw himself anew, his image colored by the shades of their lives. He saw admiration in some gazes, reverence in others. But he also saw shadows, moments he had overlooked, moments when his well-intentioned decisions had unknowingly caused hardship. Through the cobbler's eyes, he saw a prince who spoke of prosperity, yet did not see the hands worn from endless labor. Through the herbalist's gaze, he saw a ruler who promised care, yet missed the worry etched into her face as she gave her own medicine to those who could not afford it. Through the children's eyes, he saw a distant figure of authority, a man who seemed kind, yet unreachable, like a dream rather than a person who shared in their simple joys. Each image struck him like a soft blow, a reminder of how his actions, however noble in intent, had consequences that rippled far beyond his understanding. He saw, too, how his distance had left unhealed wounds, how his kindness had been felt only from afar, like warmth that touched the skin but could not reach the heart. The waterfall's voice echoed, a gentle murmur that filled the grove. Compassion, Prince, is not born of duty alone. It is the choice to see with the eyes of others, to feel their joys and sorrows as your own. A tear slipped down Caelan's cheek as he gazed at the reflection before him, understanding with a depth he had not known before. It was not enough to rule with fairness or even justice. Compassion required more. It required a willingness to step beyond the bounds of one's own life, to feel the weight of another's sorrow, the lightness of their happiness, as intimately as if they were his own. He knelt by the water's edge, his hand touching the cold, clear surface. "I am sorry," he whispered, though he was not sure to whom he spoke, to his people, to himself, or to the silent souls who had watched him from afar. "I will strive to be more than a distant ruler. I will be present with them, for them." The faces in the water softened, and one by one they faded back into the still, clear depths, leaving only his own reflection. He felt lighter, yet filled with a fierce, unbreakable resolve. Compassion had taken root within him, like a seed planted in the depths of his heart, waiting to bloom. He rose, casting one last look at the waterfall, now silent, its task complete. As he turned to leave, the mist around him thinned, parting as if in acknowledgement of his journey, guiding him back to the forest path. He carried the mirror of compassion within him, a constant reminder to see and feel beyond himself, to become not just a prince of his people, but a servant of their souls. With the weight of truth and compassion now resting within him, Prince Caelan pressed forward, his heart pulsing with both burden and purpose. The mistwood seemed to change around him, its ancient trees leaning close, their branches arching overhead as if to form a corridor guiding him toward his final destination. The air grew colder, more silent, and the mist hung thicker than ever, obscuring everything beyond a few paces. After what felt like an eternity of winding paths and hidden trails, he arrived at a cliff's edge. Below, nestled within a hollowed basin, lay the third waterfall, its waters bathed in a strange, silvery light. Unlike the others, this waterfall glowed, as if lit from within by some celestial source. The water flowed in a steady, graceful stream, casting a soft radiance over the stones around it, illuminating the mist with a gentle luminescence that seemed to pulse with life. Prince Caelan felt a shiver pass through him. This was not just a waterfall, it was a beacon, a source of something older and deeper than he could comprehend. As he made his way down the cliffside, a voice arose, softer than before, yet carrying an undeniable strength. It seemed to echo both from within the waterfall and from within his own heart. "Prince Caelan, You have journeyed far, and now you stand before the source of wisdom. But wisdom does not come freely. Are you prepared to let go of what you think you know and step into the unknown? The question hung in the mist, its weight settling upon him like a cloak. He realized then that this waterfall did not wish to reveal a mere truth or reflection. It demanded something more, a willingness to be transformed, to relinquish the certainty he clung to. He took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of the moment, and then nodded, his voice steady. I am ready. At his words, the light within the waterfall brightened, flooding the glade with a radiant glow. The mist thickened, swirling around him until it felt as though he stood within the very heart of the water's light. And then, in the quiet stillness, he felt it. The presence of the waterfall reaching into him, its voice both a whisper and a roar. Wisdom lies not in knowledge alone, nor in strength of heart. It is the light that comes from the fusion of all you have seen and felt. Look within, Prince, and tell me, why do you seek wisdom? The question echoed in his soul, stirring something deep and ancient. Caelan hesitated, his mind racing through the answers he might give. But each reason, glory, power, legacy, fell away, empty and hollow under the waterfall's gaze. He closed his eyes, allowing the silence to deepen, searching within for the truest answer he could give. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely more than a murmur. I seek wisdom not for myself, but for my people. I seek to guide, to protect, to serve. I seek to understand, so that I may become a light in their lives, as this waterfall is a light in the heart of the Mistwood. The glow within the waterfall pulsed, and Caelan felt a warmth flow through him, filling every part of his being. It was a light that did not blind but revealed, illuminating the paths of his own heart, his own choices, the quiet resolve that now defined him. He felt the courage of truth and the tenderness of compassion merge within him, creating a strength unlike any he had ever known. As the light enveloped him, he began to see visions, not of his kingdom or his people, but of moments yet to come, of choices he would make, of trials he would face. He saw himself standing before his people, offering them not just his guidance, but his understanding, his empathy. He saw himself walking through the market, speaking to the cobbler, the herbalist, the children, no longer as a distant prince, but as one of them. He saw not only his triumphs, but his failures, moments where he would falter, learn, and rise again. Through it all, the light of wisdom shone within him, unchanging and unbreakable. Then, as quickly as it had begun, the glow dimmed, the visions faded, and the waterfall returned to its quiet, steady flow. The mist receded, and Prince Caelan stood in silence, the soft light of dawn breaking over the edge of the cliff. He felt as if he had been remade, his heart bound with the power of the truths he had witnessed, the compassion he had embraced, and the wisdom that now guided him. He bowed deeply to the waterfall, a gesture of gratitude and humility. "Thank you," he whispered, though he knew that words could never capture the depths of what he had received. As he turned to leave, the mist parted, revealing a path he had not seen before. It led back through the forest, but this time it was not shrouded in mystery or shadow. The trees seemed to open their branches in welcome, and the dawn's first light bathed the mistwood in a gentle, golden glow. With a final glance at the waterfall, Caelan began his journey back, each step carrying him closer to his kingdom, to his people, to his purpose. He felt the light of wisdom burn within him, a light that would guide him through the darkest of nights and the brightest of days, a light that he knew would never fade. And so, the prince returned to his kingdom, forever changed, carrying with him the wisdom of the hidden waterfalls, a wisdom he would guard, nurture, and share. From that day on, his reign was not only wise, but filled with a compassion that bound him to his people, as enduring as the rivers that flowed from the heart of the mistwood.